Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Future of SEO and how ChatGPT can impact to this future. We have an interesting topic and I'm so excited to discuss it with Jeff Ferguson. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Happy Friday.
Yeah, I love this day from school. I have 12 years old son and he told me Friday is the best day ever. He hates Monday. And, I had the same issue on school. Today, I love Monday, I love Friday, but because of this special feeling, even more, once I check out a few studies, if you want to get more money from your customers or even to increase salary from your boss, you can ask on Friday because of this positive mindset. Jeff, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about this important topic.
Sure. So I've been in the digital marketing business for over 25 years. I got started back in 1995. Kind of by accident. I graduated degrees in computer science and marketing. Back then, originally wanted to be a copywriter. When I got out of school, right then digital marketing really wasn't a thing back then, but everybody was talking about the internet because it was just starting to become a thing, and my degrees kind of lined up with it, and everybody was asking. I needed a job, so I kind of leaned into it a little bit at the time. My first 15 years in the business were on the corporate side of things. I got started with a kind of a smaller company, but kind of quickly got recruited into some of the larger companies in the world. I was the first kind of heads of marketing for heads of digital marketing for big companies like Hilton Hotels Corporation and Kimberly-Clark, and I worked for Napster and Experian and a bunch of other companies like that. Eventually, I decided to kind of become a consultant, and that the consultancy became an advertising agency called Fang Digital Marketing. Eventually, Fang merged with another company called Amplitude right at the top of the pandemic. And then that kind of chugged along for a couple of years, and just recently, I ended up buying that out and kind of going solo again. So we're still Amplitude, but now I just own it all by myself again. Back to that, and now as you can kind of see, like we're back to being back in offices again after being kind of working from home and everything. So that's kind of a nice change. It's like not that we'd mind working from home, but it's nice to be back in an office too. So everything's nice. back to growing, back to being kind of back on the real world and everything like that, and everybody's getting used to hybrid living and all those kinds of things. So it's nice going. So yeah.
Yeah, great experience. Love it. Okay, Jeff, let's talk about our main topic, ChatGPT and SEO. I remember like a year ago, I tried to find marketers who told me that AI is the future, and most of them were skeptical about AI. I spoke with a few AI experts, and they told me, no, AI will change the world. Today, I think many people, including Google specialists, change their minds about AI. And even today, Google can tell they are not against AI. They're against low quality content. So if you can create high quality content with AI, just do it. Can you tell how to create high quality content by using ChatGPT? Because this tool uses data from 2021, and but Google needs fresh insights, actual data. So any tips how to do it right?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the important thing to remember here is that that these tools that are out there, ChatGPT and several other tools that are on the market that are coming out, what Bing's doing and what Google's going to be doing, Bard and all those kind of things that are out there. They're not actually AI; they're machine learning, right? So they're and that's a really important difference from what's out there. Artificial intelligence is still the stuff of science fiction, right? We're not there yet. Artificial intelligence means that these machines are able to think for themselves. Machine learning means that these machines have to be fed, and that's an important difference. And it's not that's not me just being a pain in the neck and pointing out a difference. That's me pointing out the fact that this information has to come from somewhere else. Right. And in this case, that somewhere else is the rest of the internet. So this information is gathering information from around the internet. So it's really, I don't want to say stealing, because, they're basically, these machines are doing the same thing that humans do, is that they're studying information from other sources. They're taking that information. They're kind of like gathering up and then vomiting it back out into like new pieces of data, just like a human would do, after it's studied up, or after we've studied up into this kind of stuff. So I think the way to actually use this information is to kind of use it as a starting thing, right? In the same way that as a kind of a starter fluid, in the same way that you would use a starter when you're making bread or anything along those lines, right? It's one of the things where, you maybe use this information. You say, hey, look, give me an article about this that uses this style, or it's this many words, or whatever it is, and see where it goes, and then come in and then take it from there as the human that actually knows better about these types of things, that knows where it goes, that actually put some real creative effort into it, that knows how to correct these things, that knows where it is, and put your own spin on it, that puts your own realities into it, and your own examples and your own quotes and things like that. Because this stuff was never designed to be the end all be all answers to this type of things. It was only supposed to be like helpers for along these ways. And that's what all of this stuff was always supposed to be. It's what it's been all along when we've been using machine learning tools for Google Ads. It's what it's been all along when we've been using it for a variety of the tools where, machine learning has been kicking around and helping a long time. This is just one more thing that we've got. It's just a really good thing that suddenly got really, visible in this instance. And it suddenly got really popular because it's cool and it's got a nicer interface. But it's one of the things where, it's pretty sexy. I got to admit, the way this thing works. But, the idea is that you can't let this thing, write entire pages of content for you, because it is really regurgitating content from somewhere else. And at some point, somebody's going to go like, hey, that is actually my stuff that you used in this instance, and you didn't quote me properly where it is. So you're going to have to go through and actually like put your own spin on this information.
Nice. Yeah, it's not a golden button. It's interesting. Right now, my team is working to unite our website OT tool with AI generation content, and we call it golden button, but it's not, guys. If you use our tool, remember, you need to edit. Our tool will help to create content for all website pages, including titles, descriptions, H1, context, but you need to edit manually. It can help to save time. You don't need to provide research on SEMrush, Ahrefs, any other tools. You don't need to create the structure, but you need to edit, because editing is the most important element of any AI generation content. Okay, Jeff, I'm interested about the future. AI, today we can see that Bing is going to implement ChatGPT on their search. Google decided to do as well with Llama. I don't remember exactly the name of AI tool from Google, but Google is going to
Bard.
do
Bard.
Bard, exactly. Baidu is going to implement AI, and many years content creators complain about that Google can steal data on feature snippets and similar stuff. But if AI will rewrite our content in the top 10 results, what kind of motivation webmasters will have to create this high quality content if people will use ChatGPT or any similar tools to get answers? These chats will take data from content creators to reply to these questions. What kind of motivation SEO specialists will have? Your insights about the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, you use the word steal, and it's one of the things where, like, nobody's stealing anything, right? It's like we volunteer this information up there for those featured snippets. You should be so lucky to have yourself, on that top spot. I mean, I'm sure you did your research. I had an article that showed up in Search Engine Journal not too long ago that did that data about whether or not those featured snippets were really stealing clicks in the first place. And when the data doesn't line up that anything was being stolen, in reality, those top spots were, if you were really in a good spot, they were driving more traffic than they were ever taking from it. The only people that were ever losing any traffic from it are the ones that were, those really kind of, really kind of stupid questions, asking like, what day did Easter fall on this year, or any kind of goofy stuff where you really didn't deserve that kind of content in the first place. And you made your money off that for years. You didn't deserve that kind of content a long time. You never owned that result in the first place. But as far as like what the future looks like for this kind of stuff, I think what the future looks like is that, the days of, making money off of easy answers for kind of stuff, those are gone. I mean, they were gone already, right? I mean, just like we talked about, for with featured snippets like that, if a computer can answer a question easily for it, and your ability to write, content that will make an advertising impression dollar off that kind of thing, then you're gone. Get out of that business, right? That's not what it is. But if you can still create fantastic content that is in-depth content, that is original content, right? That people want to read, you're still going to be fine, right? Because that, the websites are still going to be needed for the kind of stuff. Content is still going to be needed for the kind of stuff. And search engines are still going to be needed to find those kinds of things, right? All these new kind of systems, ChatGPT and all these kind of things to it, where they kind of organize this information in new ways, new itineraries. You've seen the examples like everybody else, I'm sure, on how those things do it. Really all they're doing is organizing this information into easier ways to like present this information, but people are still going to want to read long form content and deeper in-depth information to it. What's going to go away is the silly short stuff that you couldn't get before, right? So like, if you were in the business of silly, right? The short answers, the whatever it is like that. I'm sorry. I don't think you're going to make much money off this stuff, but if you were writing great quality content, which is what you should have been doing this whole time anyway, then you get a shot. So, but that's neither here nor there. So.
Yeah. I use this word, because once I read interesting study when author changed the title of the book because the first version didn't sell. Then he changed the title, and after that, this book was sold like 1 million copies because of changing just title. He didn't change any words. So, and I found that when people use the word stealing, of course, it's not stealing. Google can do it. You can disallow your website, for search engines. Just do it. It's your choice. But, by using this word, it can help to get extra attention. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, Jeff, let's talk about creating high quality content by using ChatGPT. For example, if I write, I found common mistakes that people use by using this tool or similar. They just don't provide enough details for AI. For example, write an article, I don't know, how to lose weight. Yeah. ChatGPT will write this article. But if you add extra insights by using, I don't know, special diet or training hard, or then this tool can understand much better how to create quality stuff. So can you tell from your experience what kind of details to provide for ChatGPT to improve the quality of generation text?
Yeah, this is where it comes down to the idea of remembering that, it's still a computer that you're working with, and you still got to like feed it the right information, right? So that means that you as the human still have to do your own bits of research ahead of the game, right? We learned this early on in some of our early tests when we were using it to write headlines for Google Ads. Believe it or not, that was like the first iterations we were using for it. So it wasn't necessarily for SEO content, which we did later, but we were using it for Google Ads content. And we were doing fun things like saying, "Hey, give us like 20 headlines, of this many characters based on this landing page," right? That's how we got started for this stuff. And we noticed right away that sometimes the headlines that would come back would be fantastic, and sometimes they'd come back and they're going like, "Man, like, did a child write this? This looks terrible," right? And what we kind of discovered is that we accidentally kind of discovered like a content quality testing machine, right, from this thing, because when we look back at it, we said, "Hey, look, when we really look at it, the landing page sucked." Right? It's one of the things where we looked at it and go like, wow, what it's really telling us is this landing page really isn't really written really well, right? And again, I'm not going to involve which client we were talking about, but it's one that we're going like, wow, that page really doesn't speak well of the product, right? It's spending too much time on kind of like useless words that really don't speak well to it, and we need to tell them to write it better about words that are going to help it for SEO. And what's funny is that they weren't an SEO client of ours; they were just like a paid search client of ours. But we're kind of going, we should probably tell them anyway, right? Like just in the in the betterment of all mankind, really like that. He goes, you really need to work on that landing page. It'll make it better for everybody, kind of thing. But it's one of the things where we're going, wow, we can actually use this going forward. But it taught us a valuable lesson too about like, hey, look, this kind of just goes to show it's a classic thing that they taught me back when I was taking all my old computer science classes back in the 80s, right? Which is garbage in, garbage out, right? It's one of the things where like, so you still have to feed computers great information to get great information back out of this thing, right? So if you're telling it, hey, look, I need an article, 500 words based on this topic, using these references, you have to give it great references to start with, right? And that's how it's gonna be based. So I mean, that's where how I would say to use it. You just start with good information. Don't start with misinformation. Don't start with garbage. Don't start with bad stuff to it. But then you just again, as we said at the top of the call here, is like, you as the human, you have to be the responsible one. You have to go through and reference this stuff properly. You're the one that have to make sure that you're quoting people properly, and say, like, hey, look, as this person said, or whatever it is, because that machine's not always going to pull that out properly, and you got to keep yourself out of trouble.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's talk about how to make content unique. For example, I remember when John Mueller replied to the question about AI generation content, and he usually highlights that these tools just rewrite existing content. And it doesn't matter, AI will rewrite or human being will rewrite, it's the same. It's like, I don't know, for example, when I ask my friends about a new movie, I often get the reply, nothing special, the same plot, it's not interesting to watch similar movie to many others that we watched before. So can you tell how to make it's unique? It's not like to get 100% with these tools. When all phrases, words, sentences changed, but it's more about to share something new for users, customers, because if they see the same content in the top 10 results, I'm pretty sure they are not interested to read again the same stuff. So can you tell how to make unique for people?
Oh man, well, I mean, that's writing, dude. I mean, that's that's the creative writing process. That's where it goes beyond being in SEO. That gets in the idea of like, actually getting in bed with a great copywriter, getting in bed with a great writer themselves. This is something that I'm working on with the book that I'm talking about, where I think we lost more than we gained by the idea of trying to write for SEO or write for search engines so much here. And the idea is that what we should have done all along is basically trained writers, that saying, hey, look, this is a new medium that we've got out there. And you should be the ones that are, just know how all these systems work, because you could just be, basically writing for an audience that uses search engines instead of us basically, trying to figure out. So like, it's one of the things where like, we know how all these great, like we know the ins and outs of search engines, and meanwhile we're trying to force ourselves to become better writers. And I'm a pretty decent writer, and if I mean, I'm not fantastic. I've learned to be a greater writer. I've really worked at it over the years, but I'm not fantastic by any stretch. But there's much better writers out in the world. But it's one of the things where there are plenty of people out there where like they're in the SEO business. They're out there, just cobbling together really terrible content, right? But they can really do a great job of getting to the top of like, of organic results. And you get there and you go like, man, this is terribly written, right? Like that. Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, somebody will shoot past them with like a much better article, and meanwhile people is going like, well, why is this doing better than my content? It's not whatever. And that's where the quality comes in. That's where everything goes. And that's where I think where it blows their mind, where Google is paying attention to quality. Google is paying attention to all this kind of stuff, right? And that's where I think that's the lesson we need to learn is that it's both, right? I think that's where it's all these things firing at once, because it's that's where it's the judgment of quality. It's in that quality will get you the better links, and all those other things will start firing and working together, and you get those the sum is greater than its parts kind of thing that Google that emergent property that Google tries to hint about that comes together, yeah, I mean there's something else going on there that the robots will never be able to recreate. A human has to be able to do. And that's where you gotta hire somebody who knows what they're doing with the keys, man. It's not something it's not something you're gonna be able to like teach, right? It's something you gotta give somebody that knows what they're doing.
Nice, love it. Okay, I found your article that you publish on Search Engine Journal. I love this blog, very valuable. But you published this article in 2020, 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago, and the name of article, do we have the math to truly decode Google's algorithms? I think many SEO specialists read similar articles, for example, from Brian Dean about 200 algorithms. We got a news about Yandex leaking data. Many SEO specialists learn how Yandex ranked websites. So can you tell how it's important today to learn about Google algorithms if Google always changes these algorithms? Even Yandex told that 70% of these algorithms were changed, so only after 6 months. And Google provides 7,000 changes a year. A lot, most of them are slight changes. We can feel them, but I found many content creators, even successful one who have a million traffic, they don't care a lot about algorithms. They think about human being. When they satisfy human being, I think you can satisfy search engine algorithms as well. So, for example, once I got the question on LinkedIn from Bridget Hyson. She has 4 million followers on LinkedIn, and she asked me, what do you think about LinkedIn algorithms? I was shocked. She has 4 million followers and she doesn't know how it works because she shares a lot of valuable tips, and algorithms love your stuff to recommend to anyone else. Can you tell what to learn in SEO algorithms today from your experience?
Got it. So the kind of the real heart of that article that you're referring to was that we really can't know, what Google's algorithms are really doing, right? There's no way to really figure that out. It's gotten to the point where it's far too complex. There's too many pieces to that puzzle, and most of the time, all the different studies and everything that they were doing they were trying to isolate individual pieces of the puzzle and try to pull out one piece and I say, hey, this one piece is important. This one piece is important, whatever it is. And they're talking about something that it's got, hundreds, if not thousands of individual pieces that are all firing at the same time, that are all working together. And all of those things are in an index that has got, billions and billions of different things to it. It's a mathematical equation that has just gotten far too complex for statistics to really try and nail down. But meanwhile, like you've got all these different studies that basically said like, hey, here's how this works, right? And it's just a lie. Right. It's just not the way these kind of things work. So, I actually brought in a statistician for that article to work with me because I'm not a statistician. I'm not a mathematician. To basically just kind of like take apart all those different studies and basically show how weak the correlations were and all the different problems were, whatever it is, just to kind of prove my point to say, hey, look, just don't chase those studies down. Don't chase the algorithm. Don't chase them, whatever it is. And instead focus on the core things and all the things that Google has told you all these longs, which is basically create great content, build your website properly. There's some really basic things you can do with your website, which is to make it easy to use and make it fast and make it mobile friendly and things like that. There are some real basic things to do with your meta information, stuff like that you can do, get some good quality inbound links. And then you should be good to go, right? Don't overly complicate it, right? There's some technical things that you can do to get out of your own way for kind of stuff, but all of the jumping through the hoops and the overly technical things and whatever it is that a lot of people get caught up with SEO, like that's not the game, man. And it hasn't been for years. That kind of like hacker-like culture that was back in the 90s, back when I started, like that's gone, and it has been for a long time, right? These days, if you want to be a great SEO, you got to be a great marketer. Right. You got to be a great website developer. You got to be a great public relations person. You got to be a great publicist, basically. Right. And it basically just means that what Google is really looking for is just classic like roles within the world, things that have been around forever, for the longest time. And that was my point of that article is that, you kind of go back to being old school for these types of things. And that's the kind of like the book and the way I teach my class at UCLA and things like that is that, the role of the SEO is actually starting to unravel. Especially at the enterprise level to where, it's going to go back to where it's not going to be, a regular classic SEO role. It's going to be, copywriters and just writers that actually know how SEO works, right? It's going to be website developers that know how SEO works. It's going to be publicists that know how SEO works, right? So you'll have these classic roles that just know that, exist in a world where search engines exist and know their place in the greater scheme of search engines, right, and things like that, and do their jobs, right. And there'll still be plenty of work to do for the classic SEOs, especially for the medium-sized business and the smaller business stuff. People will still need us out in the world for years to come, because there's tons of work for this kind of stuff out there. We're not going to go away anytime soon for kind of stuff, but it's one of those things where our jobs are evolving right in front of us, and as they're going to continue to evolve, and we have to be ready for this kind of stuff. That's the future of SEO, by the way. That's the true future of it. SEO, like ChatGPT is a fun tool, and it's a fun way to kind of look at stuff like that. But the true future of SEO, as SEO as the person, right, is that our role is going to change. Our role is going to evolve away, and it's going to be spread out across multiple people, and just become a much different thing for the future.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I remember when someone asked Gary Vee about TikTok. Is it good idea to start TikTok account when the US government can ban TikTok? He told, yes, of course, it's a good idea, because even if it's banned, you can get experience to create content, to film content, and it works well on Instagram Reels, on YouTube Shorts, many other. So even if SEO will be dead, I think I remember when Jeff Bezos told about that on one meeting with his employees, and he told them Amazon will be bankrupt one day. But our goal is to procrastinate this event. Of course, nothing, everything will be dead one day. But today we see SEO is growing. It's not dropping one day. It takes time.
You still got plenty of work to do. Yeah. And search is search, right? No matter how you do it. Like if it's one of the things where like you've got millennials, you've got Gen Z, you've got all the younger things. They're searching in different ways now. Now they're searching on TikTok. Now there's, you had a lot of millennials that were doing a lot of searches on YouTube, different ways to do it. And so you got to search the way that, and we as SEOs, you have to make sure that you're, adapting to the way that people are using search in the way they can. That's the job, right? It's not always going to be just developing content that show up in the blue links. You got to develop content in the way that people use search engines, and those search engines can take on, a dozen different forms in any moments, right? He goes, that's your job. If you're going to really be in the search business, be in the search business, right? Quit chasing just the blue links and go on Google. Be everywhere, man.
Yeah, agree. And if you have experience with one format, you can adapt to new format faster because of having this experience. Okay, I found another valuable article on Search Engine Journal about link building, shallow links. Let's talk more about link building, because it's important topic for my customers, for my audience. It's hard to acquire. I mean, to earn name any method how to get link building, to find great links. Can you tell about shallow links? Is it useful today to find these backlinks, and your tips how to earn or acquire them?
Absolutely, yeah. So the shallow links concept was a fun one. This was, this obviously works for brands where, if you've got brands where they're kind of established, or products where they're kind of established, where they're out in the world, and maybe your publicist, your public relations team have done a great job where there's lots of mentions that are out in the world already for them, and but maybe those mentions don't have links back to your website. But you can still find them, right? There's ways to actually find them. There's different tools you can use. You can use Moz, you can use SEMrush, you can use a variety of different tools to actually find those mentions out in the world. And then you can actually, through a variety of different ways, you can have your interns do it. You can actually have, Mechanical Turk systems. You can have, different outsourced systems to do it. To actually, basically reach out to those different pages and basically just ask nicely to say, hey, look, you're already talking about our brand in this instance. How about a link? like how about a link in this back to this instance? And then there's those moments you go like, hey, great. And now you've actually got a brand new link that was there already. And a lot of times those publications are going like, oh, sorry, we didn't even realize we're already talking about you. Of course, we'll link back to you in this instance. It's just really kind of like dot and I, slash and a T kind of thing in those moments. It's a little bit of extra work on this one, but it's one of those things where it's something that a lot of companies don't bother to do. The other kind of piece of the puzzle for the shallow link, right, is going back out and finding those links that exist already. So you've already got a link, but they're linking to the home page, right? And what you really want in those instances is that like, hey, look, you're linking to our homepage, man. Could you instead link to like the product page in this instance, right? And that's, it takes, again, a little bit more work, another round of outreach, because you got to say, hey, look, I know this is weird. We thank you so much for that link. But, instead of the homepage, could you just go to this product link? And it's just because, you have to remember Google ranks web pages, not websites, right? And that's just the way that thinks. And so if you want that authority to flow more directly, if you want that authority to actually hit the bomb properly, you got to go right to the page, not to the homepage. And that way, instead of like, dumping it all on the homepage and just counting, hoping that it will flow down to those lower pages, you got to get it right on that page, right to the direct thing. And you'll get more powerful. That way, those product pages will actually rise up, better chance of it actually ranking better, all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, so nice.
Takes work. It's grunt work. It's grunt work, but it really pays off in the end. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about common mistakes. For example, I made a lot of mistakes in SEO. I remember Elon Musk once said about mistakes: if you don't make mistakes, you're not innovative enough. And in 12 years ago, my best strategy was to buy more backlinks that my competitors had. That worked well. Google ranked all my content, but Penguin changed the game. I decided to learn more about why it had SEO that I do today. So can you list common mistakes that SEO specialists still do today and your tips how to find a much better way?
It's funny. The mistakes that I still see people are doing out there is that they're treating link building like it's like the old school style of link building. Where they're using, I don't know. Modern link building should be more like public relations, right? That's really the way it should actually be treated. Like that you should out there be getting, trying to get your CEO or product specialist, whatever it is, interviewed by, a local publication, or, your product reviewed or something along those lines. Like that's really what, should be handled. That type of activity is really, like the type of thing that is really driving better links. But you've still got people that are still doing like really terrible style link buildings where they're still trying to get comments and still trying to like comment spam or trying to like embed links in weird blogs or whatever it is. And it's just really not the kind of game that is, because you're just building a bunch of garbage up that's really spammy that Google's just going to ignore in the first place. And it's just wasting everybody's time. So that's still just a really common mistake that I'm seeing. The other one I'm seeing is really wasting a lot of time with a bunch of like garbage content, doing a lot of like old school guest posting style outreach type stuff. That is just a kind of a big waste of time these days. Just write content, man. And it's one of the things where like and I'm not talking about content about stuff that nobody's caring about. Like, I guess write content that is like about your business, that your audience is honestly looking for, right? And everybody goes like, I guess, yeah, but nobody's looking for content about my business. And because everybody is looking for content about some type of business, right? There's if you've got a business, somebody is asking a question about what you do, right? There's some type of questions that are out there, do and answer the public. You got it. There's somebody's bound to be asking some type of question about what you do, right? And there's ways to generate this kind of stuff, but if you're doing some kind of weird guest post about this kind of stuff, it's just wasting everybody's time. It's wasting resources. Just don't bother doing that kind of stuff. So I still see that kind of stuff. And then I still see people just goofing up the basics with website stuff. Like we do website ads all the time, and I still can't believe how many times I still see goofy stuff like, duplicate title tags and duplicate meta tags, or just missing meta tags, or missing whatever it is. And I'm going, man, it's 2023. How is this the most common thing that I'm still seeing? I see, all these different SEO forums and people fighting over these really complex matters. And then I do an SEO audit on like a major Fortune 500 website, and they're missing title tags, right? It's the most basic thing in the world, right? And I'm going, come on. Like that's the thing that's still missing. That's the major issue that's out there is these goofy old school things that are still missing. So I don't know. That's the mistakes that are still out there these days. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the complicated stuff. It's the basics. So.
Yeah, you remind me a story. Once I got a client who told me, if you provide results for a month, you'll get a huge contract. SEO is a long playing game. It's hard. It's really hard to get results for a month. But luckily, this website had traffic like 100,000 people a month. The topic was weight loss supplements. And what I did, we check out titles of this website and found most of them were written for the sake of having them. Nothing special, just generic titles. And we rewrote most titles on this website, and traffic increased 2 times for a month. We doubled traffic just after rewriting this titles, and the client told me, "Oh, it's magic." It's not magic.
It's so not basic. Magic.
Yeah. Foundation. Jeff, I have the final question. I have students in my network who are looking for ways how to learn SEO, how to become an expert in one day. So, can you tell what will you do today if you start from scratch, without any experience, knowledge, skills, completely from scratch? What will you do to learn about SEO?
Yeah, goodness. I teach a class over at UCLA. There's an online version of it you can take. It's not in one day. I can tell you that much. It's a 6 weeks course that you can do online. You can take that one. It's not terribly expensive. It's a good way to do it. But there's plenty of reading to do out there. There's still tons of people that are teaching great stuff. Search Engine Journal has got some great starter stuff out there that you can do, that you can read. A lot of my friends over there that have written some great stuff. So that's probably the good basics sort of stuff. But like I said, don't go down too much of a rabbit hole as far as like what you think you need to do for these types of things. This stuff isn't magic. It's writing great content, making a great website, and getting great inbound links, right? Don't let anybody tell you about secret systems or magic systems or guru type stuff, whatever it is. It's like, don't let anybody tell you about their masterclass courses or stuff like that. I know I just told you about my course, but my course is at a UCLA, right? But it's one of the things where like, you don't need to go too deep on this kind of stuff. It's just marketing. It's just website development. It's just public relations. These are things that have been around for the ages. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's work, right? And I realize work scares the crap out of people, but it's like, don't let anybody overcharge you to teach you how to do this stuff when it's gonna take some reading and some work and some practice. So
yeah, I agree. I think practice is more important than even learning, because I see when masters overlearn, they read a lot of stuff and do nothing. Nothing doesn't bring anything. And people have short memory. We can forget for a few days about new stuff. I can forget for a few hours. Just let me know something new. I can forget. Once I read about Bill Gates. When he reads books, he makes notes, and Elon Musk, for example, tweets because it helps to memorize, and it's better to implement than learn, because when you implement, when you practice, you can find what actually will work for you, because SEO is a huge niche. I know some people are great with just creating content and don't care about link building. They get a lot of traffic because they consider their strong sites. So yeah, I agree about that. Jeff, it's a big pleasure to get on my show, to learn from you. Tell our audience the best way how to learn more about you, how to follow you, how to find your course.
You can, so I'm up on Twitter at Count0 with an X, COUNTXERO. You can also find me that way on just about every platform. You can follow me on Facebook that way, and if you want to get me on LinkedIn, you can, but I don't accept everybody that way. But Twitter is kind of the best way to do it. If you want to find my course at UCLA, you can just search for SEO for Marketing, UCLA, and we're the first result. So.
Nice. Guys, you can find the link. If you don't want to search, just you can find the link in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. A big pleasure. Love all your valuable insights. I will keep learning from you. I'm going to read a few more articles on the Search Engine Journal because you posted a bunch of them. Thanks, guys, for listening and watching us.
Thanks a bunch.